Hello, everyone, and welcome to our masterclass with Rebecca, the Film Festival Doctor. She's going to hang out with us for an hour, and she will be giving us all the insights and all the information we need to submit to our masterclass with. There it is. Sorry about that. And she will give us all the insight we need and to navigate the film festival circuit, especially COVID-19 and how we're all shifting to online. Hi, Rebecca, would you like to introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are?
Hi, thank you. My name's Rebecca Louisa Smith, and I am the Film Festival Doctor. I am CEO and founder of my company of that name. And what we do is we help our clients create successful film festival strategies for their film and get their film seen on the circuit and get it in the right festivals and win the right awards and recognition.
Awesome. So I guess what everyone would like to know now is, how does a filmmaker adapt their strategy to submitting to film festivals during COVID-19 with the majority of film festivals navigating to online? How does one navigate their strategy?
Great question. And the answer is to carry on as normal. And what I mean by that, I'll break that down. So a lot of people came to me during the pandemic and said, shall we just wait and pause on festival submissions until the pandemic has finished? I said, well, we can't do that because no one knows when it's going to end. And secondly, festivals are still happening. There was a lot of anxiety by potential clients and filmmakers and current clients of mine. And they all asked me, they said, will the screenings go ahead? Because everything apparently is now cancelled. There are no festivals happening. I said, no, there are festivals happening. They've just moved online. So don't worry about that. It's that other festivals have rescheduled later on in the year, or they've gone online, or they have cancelled to next year. So only a few of them have done that, not everybody has. But I think because of the press, there was a lot of stuff in the press where they were all saying, this has been cancelled, it's been cancelled. But when you actually read the article, they said they're going to move online. So the event obviously is cancelled. They can't do a live event, but they are still doing the festival. And it had this huge amount of confusion because festivals didn't know filmmakers didn't know what to do. And there was a bit of a slump in submissions from colleagues of mine that noticed there was, during April and May, there was not a lot of submissions they normally would get, or there was just a bit of a lull and it started to get back up. But you need to carry on as normal because festivals are adapting very well, like you are obviously with this festival, online. And also what has come out through the pandemic is the hybrid model. So don't be scared. Don't think you should stop and put your whole film and your whole career and your festival life on pause whilst we're in this weird pandemic and what's going on in the world. Things are still moving forwards, and never before have laurels become so important during this pandemic. So for example, a festival which is Oscar qualifying and it's a short film festival that has Oscar qualifying awards, you're still able to compete for them and they still award them. That means you can still qualify for Oscars in April next year. So you still need to do it this year, otherwise things will get behind and there's no point waiting because the time is now and things are still happening. So it's good to talk about to people to see films online, so it's private obviously, but it's good to tell your people that your film is still being seen a different way, different platform. It's just a different way of doing it. It's just not in person at the moment. So carry on as normal. And I'll go through later on, I'll just break down the key things that I would suggest and how I go about creating a film festival strategy. We'll go through those with you. But before now, the most important thing is to please keep submitting and don't stop, because things are happening in a different way and you can still get your film seen and win those important awards. During lockdown and during the pandemic, I've had over 110 screenings so far for films of mine, including these 3 I've got here. And we've won, as of this morning, 101 awards, just from the start of the pandemic to where we are now. And wow. These all happened, 90% of them happened online, and some have been in person and hybrid model, but these are all real awards and it's happening still. And it's just the show's going on just virtually.
All right. So do you want to take it from here and start your masterclass? All right. I'll step back. If you need me, wave, holler, shout, and I'll come back.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Take it away.
Thank you. So nice to see you all. Hope you're doing great. So that's the golden rule of today's masterclass is in the time that we are in now, keep submitting your film to festivals because everything's happening as normal. It's just not the normal that we expect by having live festivals. So something else that has come out during this pandemic has been the hybrid film festival model. And the hybrid film festival model means 50-50. So it's partly online and partly live. And festivals which are doing this are those which tend to have drive-in cinemas available and those which have theatres to reduce capacity. So hybrid means that 50% of it is online, which are predominantly the masterclasses, like we are now, workshops and talks and networking. They're all done online and they tend to open that up to a global audience. So you can network and meet people who are from other parts of the world and not just the territory where the festival runs. So you have outreach is widespread and that's a really good thing. The other aspect of it is live, but it's obviously reduced capacity. So for example, the drive-in format is having a bit of a comeback since the pandemic's kicked off. But drive-in cinemas are doing really well because they're having a lot of fun in terms of having, watching a film in your car, but also they can still have the festival to go on. It's just a different way of watching it in your car, safe with the family or friends and not in a cinema. There are festivals that are having their festival back in a cinema, but it is like 25% capacity, have to wear a mask, have to have a temperature check, have to wash your hands several times and all that kind of thing, the protocols and social distancing, but it's working. It's just a little bit odd right now. I would advise you to not worry about that and you can adjust quite quickly because I was at one point thinking, how's this going to work? But it actually works really well. And a great festival that's just done this successfully, the hybrid model, is TIFF. So as you might be aware, TIFF is a massive festival, Toronto International Film Festival. And TIFF did a great job by doing drive-in screenings around North America and Canada of their key films. They had screenings at TIFF by Lightbox, their main big place where their main headquarters and the main HQ of TIFF. And they had all of their industry events were online. And the director of the festival, Karen Bailey, did actually say, deals are being made, so films are being sold, films are getting seen, films are making money. And the reason why is because you don't have to be physically present at a festival to generate hype. What really has been a saving grace is social media and the press. So obviously TIFF have a lot of press locally and also in the main magazines like Screen and Variety. But what they also do is they have very good social media presence. So when you saw their Instagram lives and their Instagram stories and Instagram pictures, it felt like you were there. And the stories are very in depth, in detail. And filmmakers began to make a big shout out about their films being there. So it was very, very successful because people began to collaborate all over the world from a distance, social distance that is, but from afar. So it does work. It's not everyone's maybe ideal situation, but the times we're in now, we can still make it work with a different type of audience and a different type of engagement, but still get results, still get the laurels, still get the awards, still get the sales deals, and still get that important recognition for your film. So it is going to keep working. And hybrid model, I think, is going to be with us in the festival world, I think, for the next, well, definitely till middle of 2021, because people have been asking me all the time, when will festivals go back to normal? When will they, start up and running again as they were before? But that won't be for a while because hybrid, I think, will be in place for a long time. Sundance have announced they're going to use hybrid. So pretty much every single festival running later on in early 2021 and this year, they're mainly online, but they are still doing hybrid where they can. But going back to that world of huge crowds and no hand sanitizer, but having that same kind of, like loads of people and not having any kind of health restrictions in place won't be just yet, which is why it's important, as I mentioned before, that the time is now, that it's very important to keep them into festivals and keep getting those laurels and keep getting exposure you want, because it's still happening. It's just on a different platform, a different way of engagement. The engagement's still strong. It's just not with a crowd of people in a cinema all together. Obviously, I do miss that kind of organic networking, but it's still pretty much there, and it's still pretty much a important aspect, and one that you should always keep doing, because it has a lot of value. Hence the awards that we've won, and have obviously happy clients. Before I go just a bit further, I'm going to talk a bit more about the key things that you need to have in a film festival strategy. Any questions before I go further? Any questions? No?
No questions. Nope.
No. Okay, carry on. Okay, so when it comes to creating a film festival strategy, the most important things you need to think about are the following. Before you do any submissions, first of all, you need to think about, number one, is what are your goals? What do you want to achieve from the festival circuit with your film? So for example, have you made a short that is your first short and it's a very good film, very high quality, and you want to go down the Oscar qualifying route? So in that case, your whole strategy would be focused upon those festivals if it was strong enough. But let's think first of all about the goals. Is one, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to get out of the festival circuit with the film? What is your ultimate end goal? And what's your bigger picture? So if you want, for example, want to keep making more films and want to build up your directory of contacts, then one of your goals will be networking. You can do that online right now, but you can do it in person. It works either way, different ways to do it, but it still works. That's one of the things that could be a goal. And obviously then going into the right film festivals with the film. So you want to obviously get the right lows. Is it to find a sales agent? Have you got a feature film and you're looking to get a sales agent? Then in that case, then that can be achieved. It has to be festivals that have those people there present. So think about really what you want, and then think about how you can help the festival. For example, imagine this, a fantastic festival that we're all at. So we've got 3 films here, all by fantastic female directors. So one of their goals was obviously getting the film scene and going into the niche of women's festivals to get more contacts in that niche, but also to get recognition that it's seen at a festival that celebrates women. So think about that, what you want to achieve. That's the key thing before doing any submissions. Second thing is money, budget. This is a big thing that people tend to forget till last minute, and it's quite common to do so. But there are actually 3 budgets to plan for before doing any submissions. I'd advise to get this done not when the film is finished, but when it's in development. But you can still do this when it is finished. It doesn't matter, but it's always good to do these things early. Is the key thing. So second thing is budget. So first of all, when it comes to budget, the first budget to plan for is your film festival submissions budget. So that will be the money you're going to spend on festival submission fees. So think about how much that you can afford to spend. So if it's $500, that can work. You can do $500 quite easily around the circuit with that much. That's fine. You have to just obviously plan ahead, right, which we'll talk about later, but you can work with that much. If you can get more, great. But you're going to need something. And $500 can go $500 can go very far for a good 6 months or more spending on fees. Okay. Budget 2 is your materials budget. So when it comes to getting film screened at festivals, and the promotion of it will cost money. So the materials budget includes making what's called a DCP. As you know what that is, it's a digital cinema package. And that's a hard drive that screens your film in a very high size spec, has to get made by a post-production house. But festivals do require that format very, very frequently now for shorts and features. The other money you're going to have to spend as well will be, you might need a backup Blu-ray, potentially, that might come on, not DVD, but Blu-ray nowadays. Also, will be needed money for, if you can't do it yourself, is a poster, someone to do a poster, someone to do a trailer, and also somebody to do the PR marketing. That's not compulsory. If you do want to get a presence, and one of your goals is getting exposure worldwide and getting the right kind of presence and getting reviews and getting a strong social media presence, that has to be really, ideally to get those results, someone else do that who has expertise, which is a PR publicist or a PR manager for advertising. So that too is going to be money involved. Again, it can be quite expensive if you do it with big people, but you could do it on a small budget too. but you will need money aside to make those materials. And also what can come out of the blue when you're doing the circuit is some people will do request a SRT file, which is a file for subtitles. So if your film is in English, festivals that are, say, in Mandarin, let's say, will want the film subtitled, and they will request that so they can do the subtitles themselves. It's a good investment. It's not that expensive as it probably could be if you get it elsewhere, like from a post house, but you can get SRT file made for a good price with the right kind of contacts that can do that. But if the festival do it themselves without that, they could probably charge a lot of money. So my advice would be to get an SRT file made and look for quotes at this stage, just in case you have to get one done. Because people do request it, those festivals that run outside of English-speaking countries. So that can come up if you're not careful with a bit of an extra bite of extra money, but it's not a fortune, but it's good to get it done early. Also, what might come up is some festivals do request certain types of stills. So it's good to have a still photographer, but sometimes they want it of a certain high spec, and that might cost extra from a still photographer. I don't know, but they might not charge that, but that's something that could come up. So that could be quite expensive if you want to get PR, but the basic stuff you could probably get, you know, all of that done for, I'd say, $1,000. That's everything. That's trailer, poster, press kits, and DCPs made. That's like I think that could cover you for a short, maybe a bit more for a feature, but it will need to be made. So if you can get as many deals as possible with friends and colleagues who can do that for a lot less, will really help you. The other budget is the third budget is your traveling budget. So that is where that can get people stung. But right now, that's going to be very minimal, if anything, in this day and age right now. But when festivals do go back to being more of a presence and a live event, you obviously have to think about traveling, because it will cost money to travel to festivals. And it's not just a hotel and not just accommodation and flights or train money. It does actually include as well money for food and drink, cost of living there, a festival accreditation, your badges and your passes, and also Uber, Lyft if it's going to be a country that you can't walk around in. So that too will add up. So that one is one to think about with your own personal finances for number 3 budget. And you can get that cheap as well if you do everything early. But of course, the prices now change a lot with inflation going up. But you can still do it and still do it on a budget. I'll just think about which festivals to attend. So it goes back to the goals. So the festivals you want to attend are the ones that are going to obviously cost you money to travel to, but will they help you achieve your goals? So if your goal is networking, if there's industry presence there, then it's worth going. If there's no industry and just audiences who are local, there'll be no industry apart from the filmmakers that might not be on your list of people who want to meet, then it might not be worth the time to go. So think thoroughly what your goals are, and then dictate your budgets. Those two are crucial. And these, by the way, apply these rules, well, not rules, but this advice applies for festivals which are, you know, post-COVID and pre-COVID. It happens no matter what. So no matter what's going on in the world, these are very crucial things. The third point is figuring out, have I got a film that festivals want? This is the key thing which gets people a little bit, confused, but also can get quite stressful. So obviously you've been very attached to your film and you've been working on it very hard, and it's going to be, I'm sure it's great. But either way, is that it gets to the point where towards the end of the process of post-production that you lose a bit of objectivity and need a bit of help coming from other people helping you and giving you feedback. So when the film is at picture lock or close to completion, I'd strongly advise to get other people to advise you and give you feedback on the film. Now, the key things that festivals look for are the following. One is a very strong narrative and a very good execution of that narrative. So say, for example, your film is boy meets girl, boy gets the girl back, they get married and have a baby, everything is great. That's not the kind of narrative that festivals want. That's a very kind of commercial and very, predictable and formulaic Hollywood story. They don't want commercial mainstream movies. What they want are stories with an edge, that take in a risk, that break barriers, that shake up the system. They're looking for films that really are uncompromising vision and are different to the mainstream, and provide a very strong alternative that is a really strong piece of work that ticks those boxes and shakes up the system. Of course, that's good to have that idea. So a strong narrative and a strong story and a concept, you need to have that, which breaks down the barriers. But also it's important to have a very strong execution of that narrative. So it's always good to have a good idea, but then if your execution is poor, so for example, you have poor acting, poor sound, poor editing, and not particularly very well made, that brings it down a bit of a level what the big festivals don't want. So that needs to be in point, that you have the right cast, you have the right sound people, you have the right post-production and the right crew to make it the film that it is on paper. Because festivals are ruthless. They don't take any, they're not very forgiving. The smaller festivals can be more forgiving of films which maybe have a few problems here and there, but the big boys, Tribeca, South by Southwest, all these big festivals that you've heard of that I'll talk about shortly, those ones don't take any prisoners. Those ones do not like films that have those inconsistencies, because they will mark them down and it won't get into the final selection. So I'm not saying it has to be perfect or flawless. I'm just saying it has to be extremely strong and a very weighty execution to get the best screenings. So that's the key things. And also is length. Now, short films can tend to be very long, but need to be shorter. So it's important that if you're going to make a short film that is longer than 15 minutes, that it deserves to be that length. And your script and your story and your dialogue and everything about the film needs to be that length. So it has to be that length. A lot of films that win Oscars and those big awards are over 50 minutes. I'm not saying that it needs to be 50 minutes for sure, but if it needs to be longer, then you have to justify that with a strong script, strong story, and strong acting, and good editing. Films that have won Oscars have been 24 minutes or more, because they deserve to be. They had to be that length for the story to tell it in the right way. We have a film right now that's 40 minutes, which is very long, but it actually needs to be that length because of the story, and it would lose its kind of weirdness if it was actually trimmed down and hacked. We've had a short film that's half an hour done Tribeca, and that needed to be half an hour. We tried doing 50 minutes, but it didn't work. So it's all about the strength of the story and the script. If your film does not have any strong character development, and it goes on for over 50 minutes, and it starts to drag and nothing is happening and you can't engage with the lead actor, then it's not going to get the best festivals because it will be not reaching its full potential. So you have to be ruthless in the editing suite and kill your darlings. Okay, they're the key things. So when you kind of know at that point what you want, what your budgets are, what film you've got, then you can start preparing your festival strategy. That's the big thing. This is people get stuck on. Which festivals? Now, if your film is the kind of movie that the festivals of what we call the big boys, the tier 1, which are Cannes, Sundance, TIFF, Venice, and Berlin. If you've got a film that those 5 festivals, what we call the tier A ones, with markets and have big festival presence and stars, if you've got a film that they want, it's going to be hard to get in regardless, but if you have and it's worth submitting, it's definitely worth a shot. And the way to answer that question, to figure out what is it for them, we'll be looking at their previous festival programs. So for example, look back at their sections. So for example, the Berlin Film Festival, they have a paranormal section, they have a art house section, they have a short section. Check in the categories if your film kind of fits the films that they tend to screen. Do they have the same themes? Do they have similar themes, similar messages? If they have a film that's kind of like yours that they've screened previously, it's definitely worth submitting, and the quality's there. But don't just put your eggs in the one basket of tier 1. There's plenty of great festivals in tier 2, and those ones, a lot of those tend to be Oscar level qualifying festivals and BAFTA qualifying film festivals in the UK. So don't write those ones off because they're still good. The way to define tier 2 are those which are on the verge of being a pretty big festival and can be probably almost as big as Berlin at some point, but they're climbing up the ladder and they're very consistent and are very, very high quality films, and they're hard to get into. So a good example is these ones tend to be Oscar qualifying. So CineQuest Film Festival, that's been going on for many years, takes place in San Jose. They've had plenty of films there which have gone on to be Oscar nominated over the years, and they do features and shorts, and they have lots of great films, all of a high quality. A short film festival, for example, will be Holly Shorts. So we have a great story about Holly Shorts. Holly Shorts screened a wonderful film of ours that we consulted on back in 2013, and we acted as festival strategists for the film, and it was called Shock, and it won the Oscar qualifying award at the Best of Fest, and they then were allowed to submit to the Oscars, which they did, and it got nominated back in 2013, which was incredible. So that was wonderful. I think it was 2013, but it's around that time. And of course, that was through the festival routes. That's not tier A, but it's tier B, and it's probably in its own little niche of short film festivals, top of its range, which it is. So that's a good example of what we call hard ones to get into, which are Oscar level and high end. That's the tier B. Tier C are ones which are either brand new and are got like the energy and the right kind of programming to become tier 2 festivals. Also, tier C can have festivals which were massive but then went a bit downhill. So it's really good with tier 3. You can always identify them, because tier 3 tends to be those festivals which are brand new, like a year or two old, but have good feedback, or about 5, 6, 7 years old, and are getting a rapport. And yes, I've just got this message. Yes, I'll address that. Tier 3, sorry, has got a message come in which I will answer to you in a minute, Patrice, no problem. So tier 3 is brand new festivals, which are up and coming and are on the right path to becoming bigger festivals, and the right energy, the right spirit, and the right kind of programming. There are other ones which can be at the level which is big festivals that have now gone a bit downhill. So big festivals that are really old festivals but haven't, they're going downhill a little bit. So that's those 3 tiers. So Patrice's question was, yes. So let me ask these 2 questions. So yes, so other genres. So documentary, festivals, experimental films. So these films, documentary, experimental, they have their own types of film festivals. So as I mentioned just now, the top tier one, Cannes, Berlin, Sundance, etc. Now, those ones are very general festivals. So what that means is that they have quite a widespread program. They have a shorts program, they have documentary program, they have a feature film program. They're not all just about one niche, they are more broad. But there are festivals that are for documentaries and also experimental and women's festivals. Obviously, we have one now, Women's Festival now, mainly films directed by women. And also, documentary festivals have their own niche too. So a good example of that is a big documentary festival is DocFest, Doc Edge. These are all Oscar level qualifying film festivals. And also another great one is Hot Docs. So they just show purely everything documentary, both shorts, mid-length, and feature films. Experimental films have their own niche as well. The biggest and best experimental short film festival is Oberhausen, that takes place in Germany. That is all pretty much experimental films, and can be quite hard to watch because they're quite experimental. But there are lots of other festivals too in that realm that focus purely upon experimental films that are extremely avant-garde, Dada, experimental. So I've got 3 questions in the chat, which I'll answer now. The first one, do smaller festivals have any actual value other than making you feel good and that you got into one? Yes, they do. So when you say smaller ones, I would say yes, for those which are just starting out, that have, a good rapport and are up and coming. There's like, the higher end tier 3 and the better tier 3 ones. Yes, they do, because they will keep growing and they like your vision, and you as a filmmaker. They want to keep following you. They want to keep screening more of your films. So as they grow, you'll grow together. So yes, they do. But they won't, though, have much of a value if they're ones which are online film festivals. So ones which do go online regardless. So these ones to watch out for are these online screening competitions, which aren't really competitions. They don't really have any value. I mean, they make you feel good, I suppose. but they're not scams. They just want to celebrate films and give awards out, which is nice, but it's not going to have a lot of value really for your career and for the film. So live festivals that run either hybrid, online, or in person, those ones that intend to run live, that have a good energy and have got great support for their filmmakers, definitely worth it for sure. But online ones that have got award competitions, not so much. Second question. I've heard that submitting to a festival after the early bird deadline may not be worth it. A lot of fests already have their lineup. What are your thoughts on this? Now, that's a myth. Now, every festival is different. So my advice would be to submit to a festival as early as possible so it saves money for you. Because early bird is quite cheap. Regular isn't probably that much more, but late can be very expensive. So rather, anyway, no matter what, is submit as early as possible to all festivals and not late. Now, in terms of with their lineup, that does apply to bigger festivals. So let me give you an example. Tribeca is one of the best festivals in the world. We've had films there before, and I love them all that run there. Now, they did say to me, they said, we're going to lock our program around February, and they run in April. So obviously, they close their submissions around January. So they're going to watch everything that gets seen. Nothing will get slipped for the net. But the more early you submit, the better it is with a bigger festival. And that way you're just getting the system early. But they will watch it. There's going to be less room than was at the beginning. The smaller festivals that rely on Film Freeway to find their films will definitely look for everything and will watch everything that comes in. Now, we submit to a lot of festivals that are late deadline because it's the time where it just, the film comes in, it's finished post, everything's a little bit, there are deadlines that are late. But because we know the festival and because we know how they program, we will submit to late deadlines, and it's a reasonable fee. I never submit to late deadlines that are expensive. I would never submit to a late deadline that's $100 or more, or even like 80, because that's pushing it, and that's a lot of money, and it doesn't make any sense. It'll get watched, I'm sure, but it's a lot of money to risk at that point. Just wait till next year, if I were you. But I would not get put off by that, because people do say to me, no point doing late because everything's locked. That does not apply to every festival. Bigger ones is going to be harder. Smaller ones, it's easier. Just for common sense, just make sure that everything gets done early as possible to save you money. If anything needs following up on that, just message again. And the third question from the chat is, some festivals also require world premieres. Shouldn't Trustee involve that piece too? Yes, it should, but for short films, it is different to feature films. So with short films, a lot of festivals do not require world premiere policies for a short film. The ones that do tend to be Cannes and Berlin, but other ones do not. A lot of other festivals require territorial or state premieres or city premieres for short films. A lot of festivals which are Oscar level and BAFTA level qualifying do not have any premiere policy whatsoever. So for example, here's a good example. Tribeca again, my favorite festival today. So Tribeca, their premiere policy for short films is New York. So that means you cannot screen the film prior to Tribeca at any festival that runs in New York. You can screen it at other places in America, that being, LA or Texas, whatever, but not New York. Obviously, New York's a big state, so there's plenty of festivals that run before Tribeca, but you have to make sure then that you plan your festival strategy. If you have a film that Tribeca would want and it's strong enough for Tribeca, and you want to really go there, then just plan it so that you do festivals that run in New York after Tribeca. Nashville have a Nashville premiere policy. TIFF have a North American premiere policy for short films. With feature films, it's different. It tends to be with the big boys, for example, South by Southwest. They request international or North American at the most, but for shorts, it's a Austin premiere policy. So you'll find that you'll have a lot more flexibility, a lot more room to play with when it comes to short films and strategy. And in terms of feature films, it's more trickier because they are a bit more restrictive, but not every festival requires a world premiere. So again, check each of their terms and conditions and their rules, and how you're going to work around it. When you put this on your strategy, I always recommend that you put your list of festivals in a spreadsheet that's Excel, and then make columns which have the name of the festival, the date the festival runs, the territory, and also the premiere policy, if there is one. And you'll see then the patterns. There might not be a lot for short films. For example, LA shorts request an LA premiere policy, nothing else, can screen anywhere else besides LA. And as I mentioned, TIFF is always North America for shorts, but not for features. And festivals in UK are very flexible. London Film Festival used to have a UK premiere. That's now gone to no premiere. And Edinburgh used to have UK premiere for shorts. Now it's Scottish premiere. So they're more flexible nowadays, which is a good thing. Hope that's clear. Anything else needs emphasizing more, just put it in the chat. Question from chat: where can one get a categorization of tiers for experimental film festivals? That's a good question, because there isn't really one, but what I would suggest is looking at Film Freeway have a very good directory for niche festivals. And there you'll see in there a lot of festivals which are experimental, women's, documentary. That will help you a lot, because that will then give you an example of what are the big festivals in that niche. Now, the way to identify what the tiers are, what kind of tiers the festivals are, because they won't say tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, that's my language. But the way to identify what tiers those festivals are is look at what their status is. So, for example, Hot Docs will say Oscar qualifying festival. So you're like, okay, that's going to be like a tier 2. If it says Canadian Screen, it'll be a tier 2 festival. If it's Cannes, if it's Berlin, I'm going to think it's tier 1. If it's Tribeca, you're like, well, it's going to be probably, you know, it's tier 2 at the highest one, tier 1 potentially, but definitely tier 2 at the highest end. If it says running for 1 year, it's tier 3. If it's an online documentary experimental competition, it's tier, don't go there, tier 4. If it's, for example, Edinburgh Film Festival, that would be tier 2. And then if it says, you know, experimental forum that is 3 or 4 years old, tier 3. If the reviews are good, keep doing that one. It's going to be tier 3. It's worth it. That would be the best way to identify what those tiers are. And also, if you look on Raindance have a good list of their top 10 festivals that are quite general. And a lot of them will have in their categories. If they have experimental, then it means it's looking for the best experimental films that exist. Question from chat. What advice do you have for web series submissions? That's a great question, because I've got one now that I'm doing. Now, web series are interesting. There's a lot of festivals that do web series, which is brilliant. And they're very popular in the US, as I'm aware. But in terms of strategy for that, there's a lot of juggling with that one. A lot of festivals that have web series programs that are general festivals or that are web specific will have different requirements. So, for example, some will ask you just to submit just the pilot episode and no more. Some will request 3 episodes, that being the pilot and 2 more to give a context. Some will request 2 episodes. Some will request an episode of your choice. So the key for that is to ensure that anyone that says the episode of your choice, that you ensure that it's the strongest episode from the whole of the web series. If it's not, it'll fail and not get in. If the pilot's strong, keep submitting the pilot. But you'll find that some festivals do request that when you ask for 2 episodes, they do request 2 submissions separate. It does vary. Some request sending like all 3 in one link, some don't. You have to check their T's and C's. But in terms of submissions, I would ensure that the festivals reflect your goals and the festivals that you want to screen at. I'll help you achieve what you want to achieve long term as a career as a filmmaker and with the film. So, for example, we've got one now called Flimsy. It's a brilliant web series. It's shot in lockdown, not about lockdown, but it was shot during lockdown on iPhones. And it's very creative. The whole thing goes backwards. So the first episode is the last episode, and the pilot's the last episode. And it's about 3 minutes, 4 minutes each. And it's very creative and very clever because it's filmed as if they're all in the same room, but they're all in different countries. And it's a very good concept. Now that's done well, predominantly, because it's not a groundbreaking thing. It's very creative, but it's very strong. And it's been done the best it can for what it is. We submitted it to web series festivals predominantly, female filmmaker festivals, because it's a female director that orchestrated it all, and smartphone festivals that have been running for quite a few years and are a good caliber and have good reviews and good awards and good categories. But you do find it's not going to be just submit one episode. It's going to be a mix and match. So be prepared to have available the strongest episode from the series and the pilot episode. Can you give us more examples of tier 2 festivals? Yes. So to find more examples, type into Google, the following. So type in Oscar qualifying film festivals and a PDF will pop up, which are all Oscar qualifying film festivals. They are all tier 2. Also type in BAFTA qualifying film festivals and you'll find also a list by the British Film Council, which have a list of BAFTA qualifying film festivals. They are all tier 2. Now, in this document, they are not all just general festivals like I said, CineQuest, that are all different types of genres and broad. There are festivals which are within the niche of horror. For example, the Sitges Film Festival that takes place in Spain is a Oscar level qualifying film festival and is all films that are within horror, fantasy, and sci-fi niche. Another one, a good example, is the Real Sisters of Diaspora Film Festival, that's Oscar qualifying. That is obviously for female filmmakers of African descent, and that is Oscar qualifying, and it's a niche festival. We've got a film in there, which is great. Also, one which is another niche festival, which is tier 2, is the Urban World Film Festival. So that is films which are from all over the world that are niche of being urban cinema. Also, another one is the Raindance Film Festival, which is general, but for independently made films and shorts only. Silver Docs, which is BAFTA qualifying, and that is for documentary films only, obviously, shorts and features. So that's a good example of a mixture. In terms of experimental, that would be Oberhausen that I mentioned, that's BAFTA qualifying. And the other festivals, which are more general at CineQuest, have an experimental film strand within their program. Any other questions? See any more popping up? No. Another one, actually, example of a tier 2 short film festival is Aesthetica. Now, I'll spell that for you if I can. AESTHETICA. Aesthetica Short Film Festival is incredible because they have genres of all different kinds. They have experimental, they have advertising film, they have web series, they have short films, and that is BAFTA qualifying, and it's a fantastic festival. So is the Underwire Film Festival for UK filmmakers, which is for obviously female filmmakers and takes place in the UK, and that is BAFTA qualifying for female directors, producers, and writers only. Horror is a massive niche, and a lot of the festivals in the horror niche are tier 2, which are part of what is called a federation called the European Fantastic Film Festivals Federation, EFFF. All the festivals that are in there are what we call the tier 2s and are very high-end genre film festivals. The biggest one out of them all is Sitges, being Oscar qualifying. Any other questions, just type in the chat and I'll go over those for you. But yes, so back to where I was in terms of the strategy. Make sure then that you know exactly of those tiers where you sit, but also I would encourage you to definitely get feedback from people that aren't friends and family and neighbors. So there's a question pop up, so I'll get to that in a second, but make sure the feedback is objective. Someone like me who has no emotional connection to you or the film and can be very specific, because obviously we work in the festival area, so we know exactly what festivals want to help you solve that problem, and we haven't got attachment to you. Friends and family can tell you what you want to hear, and then it becomes the wrong advice to get the results you want, and then wasting money and time. So be it your peers that don't know it well, or your teachers, your tutors, people like me, give you the best possible advice. Okay, is it worth submitting to tier 3 or 4? Tier 3, yes, but only if it is festivals which are up and coming and hungry and on the way to becoming a bigger festival, like the Chelsea Film Festival in New York. We knew them from the beginning, and are now one of the top 10 festivals on Movie Maker and to actually submit to, and is a very high-end festival that's grown and evolved over its years. something like that. That's only like probably not even 7 years old, but you know, it's still quite young. That's a great example, and that's what we call tier 3, that's going up and up and up and rising consistently. Tier 4, not really, because tier 4 I classify to be online festivals, which are the ones, as I said, that are, you know, the Indie Fest Awards, for example. I mean, if you want to win an award, you'll get one, because that's what you want, then you'll get it. But it won't do any kind of, won't help a lot in terms of meeting more filmmakers online, meeting them virtually because they don't have any networking events. It won't help increase the value of the film because it's not a particularly very prestigious organization with these tier 4 festivals that are award competitions. I try and avoid them. There are one or two that aren't bad, you know, that are pretty good, that are very fair, but again, it's few and far between. So I'd stay away from tier 4 if you want to get the film more widely recognized and seen by audiences, because tier 4 tends to be the online competitions, which are run by a jury behind closed doors, and it's not a physical screening or online screening. So I'd say to avoid tier 4 if your aim is to really get it seen far and wide and win awards as possible and get recognition. Stick with tier 3 and tier 2. Tier 1 is tough though. So tier 1 is always going to be tough. You know, Cannes and Berlin are very difficult. So I really would only do that if you have connections, but also have a film that really will blow them away. Another question. Is it worthwhile getting a PR publicist for a short film? If so, how much should one budget? Great question. The answer is yes. So if your film is a very strong short that's going to do really good festivals and like launch or get a screening at a really big festival, for example, like LA Shorts for a short film, Holly Shorts, all these kind of festivals that are in the tier 2 mode, then yes, because it's going to probably get more big festivals and more really good festivals. People are going to want to see it, and it's going to start doing a lot more festivals and more screenings. It'll become a festival darling. So yes, it's definitely worth investing in a publicist for a short film, because there are a lot of outlets for short films in the press and the media world. A great company to connect with about that is called Chic Art PR. They specialize in women filmmakers, documentaries, and horror, and they can get you lots of press for short films and feature films, but a lot of press that you wouldn't think actually existed. So it is. And the cost for that, they have different packages, because they have, you know, a small campaign, medium-sized campaign, or a large campaign. And I think it starts at $1,000 upwards. So it's pretty reasonable to start with a small campaign and do more as you go along. But it is worth it. And I would definitely do that if you've got a really good short that's going to get press attention, lots of good reviews. And that's worth the investment, because you're going to get results back that's worth the money you've got to put in. Any other questions? Hope that's clear. Yeah, in terms of budget with PR, if you're going to go for a massive campaign, that can cost up to 5K or more. But you can start off with 1,000 or be definitely worthwhile and more realistic, and definitely have, you can get a lot from that, not reviews. If they're good, obviously if they're good publications, that means that it'll get good rapport for your portfolio as a filmmaker, having a good kind of level publications like Variety, Screen. They always look good on your portfolio for you as a filmmaker and the film. So I mentioned earlier about which festivals. So obviously get feedback that is not mum and dad and the cat and the dog. Make sure it's people who don't know you. And when it comes to doing your research, start first of all by looking at those documents that are Oscar level qualifying film festivals and BAFTA qualifying film festivals. So you have an example and you know kind of what festivals are those bigger boys that are going to be tough to get into, but still worthwhile to submit to if you've got a good film. And the other thing to look at is looking at Rain Dance's top 10 festivals. That will probably see some patterns of the same festivals. And also look at Film Freeway, but don't just type in Film Freeway and ask for random festivals. Look at the best parts of Film Freeway to help you is to your left of the screen when it tells you groups of festivals that say niche, top 10 festivals for filmmakers, or horror, documentaries, all that kind of, there's a group of them to the side, you know, top rated. All these festivals there, and they're not sponsored by Film Freeway. They're not like, you know, advertising. On the page itself, it groups them up into like festivals that are Oscar level qualifying, that are for women, that are more niche, that are sci-fi, that are adventure, and that really helps you just figure out where you could probably place the film on your first step out into the circuit. And in terms of looking after your strategy, make sure it's organized. So do that spreadsheet I mentioned, which has the name of festival, the dates of the festival, territory, the premiere policy, and what dates submitted if you got in. That way it just keeps it in a system, clean and tidy, and then it'll be easy for you to manage. Also, when that question you just said now, oh, there's one more coming. One answer to that question about the PR question. Do set up a separate Instagram account for the film. We have one now called @GesturFilm, which is the gesture, the word, a film we represent. And that way, everything about the film at festivals is on there, and other news, and that will then attract more people to look at the film and get interested in the film. So definitely do a separate one for your film. Question from chat: what are some news outlets that are great for short films? I would say definitely FNE Daily, which is film. Well, FNE, capital letters, Daily. They do lots of great coverage for short films. Also, we want to Google, which is a brilliant outlet, and it's a worldwide outlet. It's online, so it's all worldwide, but they're based in UK, which is Film and TV Now. John Higgins, who runs that, is an absolute darling. He adores short films and feature films, documentaries, women filmmakers, that whole lot. He loves it, and he gives fantastic reviews. So reach out to him for a review, but it's Film and TV Now. And also the UK Film Review are brilliant. They again are passionate about shorts and features and love independent filmmakers. They are wonderful to connect with. And also for a podcast interview, I would go for Britflix. It doesn't have to be British films, it's just called Britflix. But they do films over the world, and they're a great source to get interviews and to chat about. And also one is called The Good, the Bad, and the Now, which is for female filmmakers, and it's very, very useful. These are outlets you can actually just reach out to yourself, and they would happily respond. I recommend those for sure, without a doubt. Obviously, publicists will have more connections with bigger publications because they need contacts and only go through certain agents, and being just a blind press release. But those ones you could do yourself, and I recommend you try them because you will get results from that. And so finally will be, I know we've got 5 minutes, but we can carry on still with some more questions, please. I want you all to make sure I answer them the best way and you're clear. Also, what I would suggest as well is to ensure that you do have somebody who does do a great poster, because that really helps a lot. So, little secret with your Film Freeway page. So, as you are aware, Film Freeway is a platform where you can submit your film to festivals. Filmfreeway.com, if you don't know what it is, I'm sure you do, but just in case, if you're new to it all. Now, obviously, you've got a project page for your film. So really make sure, and here's a really, really important tip, that your synopsis is very good for the film. So what I mean by that is when festival programmers look at the project page, look at the poster, they glance at the poster, look at the stills and go, interesting, look at the trailer. Then look at the center where the synopsis is. Then they look at the synopsis and they go, oh, this is really interesting. It probably could fit my festival's program about documentary films or about women or about poetry, for example. So ensure that your synopsis is really, really succinct and is strong and is really going to stand out. So make sure that it does in the first paragraph, just make it one paragraph, that it tells you what the film is about and hooks them in. So for example, this is a modern day adaptation of No Exit filmed in LA. That gives them something. Oh, it could be our local filmmakers program. Oh, it could be our experimental program. Oh, it could be an adaptation program. So it just gives them some information before they watch it. So they have a different context, because obviously they're thinking about programming, they're not thinking about watching the film for fun. They're what's work. So thinking, right, okay, this could be really good for this program potentially about experimental films. We haven't got anything in there yet. So do make your synopsis succinct and clear and not long, just very much like a punch synopsis that will give people a lot of information in a short paragraph about what your film is and how it'd be great for their festival. Okay. And always have great stills or screenshots that tell a lot about the film and a great poster. Any more questions? I'm going to put my hand up just to Patrice and just tell her if she has any more questions. And we're just doing the time. So Any more questions come through? I hope they've been answered okay, but they're very good questions. Thank you very much.
They were great questions.
Great questions. I like those questions.
One more. What are your top tips once you're at a film festival?
I love that question. So when you're at one, and I'm going to do this in two parts, both physical festival, whether it be drive-in or back to how they were, and also online. So first of all, top tips would be, when you're at a festival that's live, just be yourself. Do not be someone who you're not. Make sure that you're just you and your authentic self, and that you are proud of your film and you know your film inside out, and talk about it. So don't go looking for people who you want to get a bit desperate about. I need to find somebody now. I need to get my career off the ground. Just be you and they'll come to you. So go to the festival with your goals finely tuned. You know what you want to achieve, you know who you want to meet, put that out there, and the right people will come to you. And enjoy the festival and be aware of feedback that comes in your film. Someone gives you some feedback on it, be open to it, and don't say, no, you're wrong. Just be like, well, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. Okay, I'll take the point now. That could be good for my next film. Maybe I could make a short in the film. So be open and receptive to feedback, and make sure that you are open to having more ideas if people do give you more suggestions, because they're there to help you and give you, could be a new fan. Also, mingle. I know it's hard to say that right now, but mingle. And make sure that when you're at a festival, whether it go back to how it was, or if it's social distance, make sure that you do speak to people and engage with them. And also watch their movies, so you have an icebreaker, so you have someone to talk about, because people might want to collaborate with when you see their films. So always be open to collaborate, always be open on the lookout to meet new people, and just be you and work the circuit. Go and see as many films as possible, because we'll be there you might want to work with. And just be very present, be active, and attend the workshops, attend the networking, and just be present, and you'll meet new people as you go along the journey. With online, the same thing applies. Know your goals, know what you want. And secondly, always make sure online that you've watched the people's films, so you have an icebreaker again. And also just build up your confidence a bit more. And don't be scared to talk. And know that people want to talk too, because they want to see your film, they want to connect with you. So just be you again, and don't be shy when you're on Zoom. Okay.
All right. This was like a crash course into what you do, but you offer this class and more courses on your website. Can you tell everyone where they can go, where they can get this information, how they can register for one of your classes, or even hire you?
Yes. So before I do that, I'm going to just say in the chat, there's a comment from Catherine Sweetman, who is amazing. And she mentioned she's very happy with the work we've done. And I love her. She's great to work with. And her film is done really well. In fact, I can now show her, by the gift of Zoom and YouTube, this is your award, Catherine, that I have to give you when I get to LA. It's your award from the Romford Film Festival for Best Documentary for her film High Flying Jade.
Which is screening at our festival.
It is, which is here as well, which is a brilliant film, and I'm really proud of. So well done, Catherine. So that's the award. So that's in my suitcase when I get to LA. To find me, my website is thefilmfestivaldoctor.com, and Instagram is @RebeccaFilmDR. So please follow me and I'll follow you back. You can DM me and I'll answer, and my team will. And on the website, you'll find more information about our services, my online course, my blog, which are free, and my podcasts that are free, and I'll help you navigate the circuit. And please connect. I'd love to know more about you. I love the questions. It's been a great group. And I'm probably watched all your films by now. This week I will, obviously. And I'm really, really happy this took place virtually. And thank you so much for the festival. You've been really lovely. I love the questions. And I can't wait to talk and see you all soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was great. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.